So, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. The next edition of our Outspoken webinar series is a topic that I personally am really excited about because it is the new frontier and I know I'm going to learn a lot. So, without further ado, today is called From Keywords to Conversations: AI's Role in Modern SEO. And I cannot wait to get started. But before we do, just a few housekeeping things. Audio for your webinar is through your computer. So, up and down as needed. If it freezes for whatever reason, feel free to just exit and hop right back in. We'll keep going live through Zoom. If you have any questions or comments or chats, please feel free to utilize not only the webinar chat, but also the Q&A. I'm going to keep an eye on the questions as they come in, and we're going to have plenty of time at the end for them. We will not be able to do any questions in the middle. So that being said, please be as specific in your question asking as possible. If it's for Adam or Kendra, please say that in the question and make it as specific as possible so we can get back to it at the end. Oh, and I just told you what to do with the Q&A. So yes, send us all of your thoughts as well. We love to keep the chat going throughout the webinar. All right, so we've got a very exciting group of people to introduce you to today. Some of you may already be familiar with Kendra and Adam. If you're clients of ours, they are amazing on our team. And I am going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to hand it over to them to give a brief introduction themselves. So my name is Lee Mooring. I'm the Director of Agency Marketing here at Speak. I just celebrated my second Speak anniversary, which means I have been in this role here at Speak for 2 years. Prior to that, I worked in museums for about 8 years, and I was at a corporate technology partner for 4. So I've been kind of all over the place. But very happy to be here. My undergrad is from Clemson in history. And then my master's is from C of C, which is in Charleston, and the Citadel, also in history and museum studies. So that's where my background comes from. And then I've had various marketing jobs for museums as well. And I'm super happy to be here now at Speak. So I'm going to throw it over to Kendra to introduce herself.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. So my name is Kendra Svensson, and I'm the Vice President of Client Partnerships at Speak in my 10th year here. So have seen the landscape change quite a lot. Started out in just simple digital marketing and social and content. Now oversee the team that handles all of our client relationships. So everyone from brand strategy, client success managers to our digital audience growth specialist. So excited to be here. Can't wait to give you guys some really tactical tools to use today.
Perfect. And Adam, let's have you introduce yourself.
All right, thanks. So hey everyone, my name is Adam Calvis. I have been with Speak for 6 years, coming up on 10 years with agency experience as a whole. And yeah, so my role here is a marketing strategist. That's what I've primarily have done throughout my tenure in agency life, mostly doing brand strategy. I have worked a little bit on the SEO side as well, so I've got some, more kind of direct experience in terms of some of the different kind of digital marketing services that we offer. Also have had project experience as well. I'm just leading content planning and just basically being a consult for our clients. So lots of different hats to say. But yeah, just super excited to be on this webinar with you guys. And yeah, let's get going.
Perfect. Thanks, both of you. As y'all can see, you are in great hands with these two experts pouring into us today. And for those of you who are jumping in with us, if you're not super familiar with Speak Creative, we are a full service marketing agency partner. So we do everything from digital marketing to websites. We do branding, we do print media as well as digital. We do video, photography, development, content, social media, paid campaigns, all the things. And, we really do pride ourselves on being more than just a local marketing agency, as you could probably tell from all of the locations that people were chatting in. We serve people all over the country and in other countries. And we really view our clients as not just a normal provider client relationship. We view everybody as our partner, and we are industry experts in several different verticals that we serve, from arts and cultural to nonprofits to education to small business, growing brands, tourism, and we love working with everybody, and we really do view ourselves as an extension of your team. And we work with so many different organizations, like I just mentioned, from all over. So here are just a few that I've highlighted. But we really view our relationships as partners. We celebrate our customers' success like they are our own, and your wins are our wins. And we just love working with some pretty amazing organizations. So that's just a little bit about us. But without further ado, I am going to throw it over to Kendra so we can actually get into our content. And while we're here today, talking all about AI in SEO. So, Kendra, I've just handed you control over the slides. So,
Yep.
take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So before we get into AI, we need to talk about just SEO and what's happening in 2025. We are through the first quarter of 2025. So some of these predictions that we thought we were going to see, we are starting to see develop, which is exciting for us to have a plan and be able to execute on it. But these are the things that we're seeing. Obviously, AI is number one. There's a growing role for it in SEO. So that's where we're going to camp out today. Some other things that we're seeing that are really important to the world of SEO this year are the core web vitals, the update from Google that happened last year, and its impact. Basically, great UX can overcome all of those core web vitals, but UX is super, super important to SEO more than ever. The rise of voice search, we are going to touch on that a little bit today. This is something that has been in our lives for several years, but we are seeing just so much more impact of it, especially with AI, because people are starting to treat AI just like they are their Alexas and their Siris. And then our content quality is also important. So alongside, they really walk hand in hand. You can AI content all day, but is the quality up to par? That's where we need to keep our focus, and making sure that it is talking to the rest of the internet. There's good social signals. It's connected to profiles and directories and all of those kind of juicy search terms that we're going after. That's important too. So SEO is really hasn't changed much. It's just we're a little bit deeper than maybe we were a couple years ago in these things, voice search and quality content. If you've been around for a while, quality content has always been at the top of our list, but we kind of have clearer marching orders. So exciting to see that come out. But let's talk about AI in SEO. So this is an AI generated image. I'm not particularly keen on stock images, but thought it was kind of fun to just see what the internet or what ChatGPT thought AI looked like. And here it is. So we're going to hold AI in the palm of our hand today. We're going to talk about some SEO tools that really help further where we're going with SEO. We're going to talk about its impact on the algorithms. Some of the automation that we're doing here as an agency. We're really going to be tactical and give you kind of the secret sauce of how we're expanding bandwidth and being able to be more strategic and go further. And then talk about predictive models in SEO and how that has really changed with AI. So once we do that, Adam's going to give you a tip sheet. He's got lots of great insight on things we're doing, but things you can do to further your own content, your social media. It all plays together. So excited to really share those tactics today. This will be a good webinar just to take notes and have some of those takeaways because they're really powerful today. So let's get into it. AI-powered tools. So ChatGPT is the name on everyone's lips. There's Grok. There's a ton out there. It feels like more are popping up every day. You can train your own GPTs now. And we are seeing that they are really, really useful in some of those basic SEO tasks. So we are getting further in our keyword research, in our content creation, and in our optimization. Some benefits of that is that it is going to increase our bandwidth. It can also increase our performance, give us good analysis, and provide more suggestions. So when we're working with an SEO client, we're on like a cyclical monthly schedule of how we're doing SEO and where we're optimizing. But where we've seen some efficiencies is asking ChatGPT to come alongside us. Really provide a second eye. It's almost like having a expert coworker sitting right next to you who can look through your keywords and kind of say, you know, I think this, or here are some other suggestions, or this is a great topic, here are more keywords. They can really expand what we can do. You know, if we have just a 1 hour window, we can get 2 hours of work. So we're seeing a lot of increased bandwidth, and it's allowing us to really be nimble and be more agile to developing content quicker because we're able to have that expert analysis and increased bandwidth. I do want to caution when I go through all 4 of these trends today, what it doesn't replace is brain equity, right? So brain equity, we're just not to the point where all of that institutional knowledge that is in our employees' brains can be replicated. So, you know, why the east gate of your zoo doesn't open on a Tuesday. You know, maybe there's questions around that. There's all sorts of knowledge that we hold that the computers don't hold yet. And so we're not to a point where it can totally replace what we're doing with those tools. There does need to be some level of application from a human there. Maybe next year I'll be saying, nope, we don't need humans, but we definitely do right now, which we're happy with, right? We don't want a full takeover. So the powered tools, I think, are a really important thing for you. Adam will get into how to kind of train those tools and how to use them soon. The second trend, so this is another AI generated image here. Did I skip a slide? Nope, it worked. Okay. We are seeing that search engines, they are using AI to train their own algorithms. So RankBrain, BERT, Gemini, they have all come out, and you can see it in how we're searching today. It's just a much more human experience. I know specifically if you're searching on Google and you ask a question, you're getting AI summaries that feel very conversational. It's kind of, you know, scouring the web and giving you the best answer. It's taking that guesswork out of getting into all of the search results. Now, from a website perspective, that's a challenge for us because we want to ensure that we're getting clicks. We want to ensure that we're getting people onto your website. Where we see that as a benefit is we can actually produce content that is going to catch the eye of those algorithms. We want to be that answer. You know, if Gemini is going to give us an answer for search, we want to make sure it's using our content. So that's where our strategy has swapped a little. We are really starting to understand more and more and more about how different our searches are based on intent. So, you know, am I looking for things to do in Cleveland, or am I looking at what time the zoo opens on a Tuesday? Those are important differences. You know, I'm searching for very different answers, whether I'm in that research phase or if I'm on the way. And Gemini is starting to give us results that are using location, using previous searches. They're really starting to understand intent a lot better. That provides quicker answers for the searcher. And again, back to that analysis, can help us look for content gaps that we, you know, maybe haven't seen before. So we're playing the game right alongside those algorithms, trying to understand them every single day. It does not replace other ranking signals, right? So we talked about the core web vitals. We could have the search engine algorithm know our site top to bottom. But is the site still speedy? Are people able to find it themselves? There's so many other ranking signals that help search results that aren't controlled by AI right now. So while the search engine is playing a game and we're playing with it, there is something there that cannot be replaced just yet. But the search engines are getting smarter. They're getting more conversational. As an end user, we appreciate it. And as marketers, we are looking to keep up with it. Our next trend here, and where we're seeing AI really take a big role in SEO, is in automating the technical pieces. So one thing that we talk about a lot with our clients is on-page SEO versus back end SEO, the technical piece of it, whether that is writing code, placing schema, which is, some structured markup, auditing sites for page speed and all of that. We are seeing that tools can actually help with those tasks and make it a little bit easier. For instance, we can say, give us some schema markup for a restaurant and actually get the code rather than going and writing it and, comparing it with other code. It's just being produced, and then we can go in and execute on it, what we've asked the AI for, or the GPT for. So we are, again, seeing a quicker path to advancement using some of those automated tasks. It can help us write code that, uses proper structure. So H1's in place, meta descriptions in place. It can also help us with naming structure. What's the best way to name this page for SEO? It can just go and analyze some competitors. It can look at what's out there and then give some suggestions. Again, this does not replace what we know and some of our tried and tested methods. I think you'll ask any SEO, and part of the reason they like doing it is because they're testing all the time and are gaining expertise. And we are seeing we can get a competitive analysis of what else is out there, but there's still a little element of like a competitive edge that our SEOs can take and use that information to mold into something that fits the brand and what search engines are looking for. So again, giving us a lot more bandwidth here, being able to write meta descriptions, write page titles much quicker. That allows us to focus on the quality content that we can push out on those pages. And then what is my fourth trend is predictive models. So we are at a spot where we need to be able to trend forecast to make this really work for us. AI, I think, has been a really great productivity tool, but thinking about how it can power us into the future, how it can help us get ahead, it is up to us to really train it and create some predictive models with it. So we would love for keyword predictions to, monitor them over the quarter and see how people are searching a little bit differently. Any industry is going to be very different, but people might search differently based on seasonality, based on industry changes and automation. Think about cars, for instance, where we were 10 years ago on a car, people were looking for different features than they're looking for today. Today, they're looking for advanced tech and maybe specific packages, whereas before those weren't even available. So being able to predict where the keyword trends will go is really important for us. We need it because that makes our planning easier. And then Adam will get into it again, but having that expert analysis right next to you, kind of as a partner with AI, just make sure that our hunches are kind of in line and ready to go. So these predictive models, we will start to see a lot more by year's end for sure, but I predict they will take our recommendations and kind of create a trend line for us, give us a to-do list of what to look for next, and can really help us be innovative, not just in SEO, but in our brand and products that we offer and solutions to problems that maybe people aren't even having right now. They might be having come September. And if we can stay on top of it, I think that the SEO predictive models can really help us identify those. Of course, this does not replace a big market shift, and it also can't necessarily talk through brand sensitivity. So if there's a product we avoid for a certain reason, a way we talk about something, the market could go in that direction and we might want to avoid it. So there is, again, that human element that we need to monitor, but I think predictive models will be a part of our future very, very soon. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam. I have gone through some trends, but he's got some ways to really leverage this. So whether you are writing blogs, whether you are doing social content, maybe you're doing the SEO for your site, or maybe you're working for an agency, these are some really great ways I think that you can implement work into your normal workflow to expand yourself. So Adam, please take it away.
All right. Let's see if I can. Here we go. Perfect. All right. So yeah, I mean, Kendra touched on a lot of great points. I think the one that constantly kept sticking out to me is AI is a tool. It's never, at least at this point, it's not really meant to replace, any of the operations that we do. It's simply, a consult, it's a co-pilot, whatever kind of analogy you want to use. Personally, I really love it in that kind of first stage of task work, specifically for the planning and researching, because it really just saves us a lot of time. Like that's a really crucial step for us, but it can really burn, a lot of retainer time. And so I love it from that perspective where, as an expert, whoever we're working with, we've already met with them, we've kicked off a retainer, or maybe we're already in the middle of a retainer, we've got new initiatives. We've already got all of those things equipped, and we can use this tool along with other tools that we use to basically expand, what direction we're going to take and, how we can evolve whatever sort of, uh, direction we want to go with to achieve specific goals that we have in mind. So I've got a couple examples. I think before I dive in, I'll just touch on a couple other notes with AI, specifically, just how you use it. There's a lot of different ways that you can use it. Like, I mentioned, I love it for planning, I love it for research, but there's a lot of really interesting things that you can do. You can do competitor analysis. One thing that we love to do when we kick off like a website project is we have a little segment where, we asked AI to analyze a client and just see what they give us back. How would they describe them? How do they understand this client? And so we'll kind of cross-check with the client in the meeting and say, is this, accurate? And most of the time they say it is. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive, but there might be one or two things are like, oh, that's not really what we're about, or that's not really, our mission to the T. Here's some things that we might change. And so, for us, that's like, okay, that's an area of opportunity. Why did it understand you that way? Is it because the content that you have on your site? Is it, your schema markup, your meta titles and descriptions? Those things need to be tweaked to, ultimately translate how you want to be represented. And then in terms of, treating it like a friend, training it like a puppy, again, you are the pilot, you're the driver. This should, be not just making your whole, marketing plan, SEO plan, and you put a prompt in, it feeds you information, and that's what you run with. Like you are an expert at the end of the day, whoever's using these tools, and you should know based on the information that you're getting back, what is it telling you? Oftentimes, I start with a very general prompt, which is this example here. In this case, we just asked it, hey, give us 5 engaging blog ideas for a private school. And so not very specific. I didn't tell it who are these blogs for necessarily. I just wanted a topic, and I'm letting it know that I want blog topic ideas. And so it spit out some ideas. It gave me some pointers, some things that I can talk about. Obviously, at this point, it didn't write the content. And that's great, but now I take it one step further. I ask it, another prompt. And in this case, this is this example. So now I asked it, give me ideas that are directed towards new students at a private school. I even gave it a specific location. And then, I gave some other sort of like identifiers or requirements to incorporate into this content. And so as you're using this, you can start very simply and then work your way based on whatever responses you get. And so, yeah, that's sort of how you train it like a puppy, because it's not just going to give you right off the bat super high detailed information if you just put in a basic prompt. And as you use these tools, you'll kind of learn more and more, what works, what's effective. But yeah, we definitely use this a lot when it comes to putting together, content calendars, just again, that research, that planning phase, it just saves us a lot of time. So that's one example. Another one, I mentioned competitor audit or analysis. So this is an example. I was recently doing some research on solar panel, different competitors. And so this happened to be one of those that I wanted to look at. And, I gave it a couple different things that I wanted to know. I wanted to know a brief overview of this company. I wanted to see if AI could tell me who their target audience is, what the tone of the content is, and then ultimately what makes them stand out. What sort of unique selling points do they have, based on the website that they're analyzing. And so it gives me a lot of great information, stuff that, might take me 30 minutes to an hour just kind of combing over, a competitor's site, looking at their blog content, looking at their service pages. This will just, basically do a quick scan. And within seconds, I have all this key information. And so if I'm, reviewing, let's say 5 different competitors, I mean, you can just imagine how much time that saves. Now, again, I'm not satisfied as a marketer. I'm not satisfied with just this output. I want to go back in, cross-check it, because there have been some times, for example, where it tried to tell me, hey, this is a unique selling point for a specific competitor that everyone else isn't doing, but they excel at. And so in this specific instance, they scanned or AI scanned the homepage and saw that there was a section for educational like resource videos for solar panels, and just basically educating people how to get the most efficiency out of them and things like that. And so, okay, that's great. No other competitor in our client didn't have that sort of thing. I go to it, I click on it, and it led to a dead page. So AI wasn't smart enough to go one level deeper and see that, hey, this thing doesn't even exist, even though they promoted it on here. So what is, from a marketing perspective, what do I do with this? Now all of a sudden the gears are turning. Hey, it brought my attention to something that everyone else isn't doing. Maybe we can do this. And obviously we can do it better because if we have the resources, we can make videos. We'll make sure that that page is live and accessible. And, now we've got a leg up on the competition. So a lot of different things. Like, I think this is what's awesome is that it just gets those gears turning in ways that maybe we would have gotten there at some point, but right off the bat, this just gives us all that information that we can, start to work with things a lot sooner. And then we've got one more. Let's see. So content audit. So now this gets away from, the more kind of like general prompts that I showed you at the very beginning. Now what I did was I basically did some work off of the AI tool. I utilized Google Search Console for a specific client, and I, basically in a spreadsheet exported page data. So what I wanted to use this for, because this client had hundreds and hundreds of pages, I put everything into a spreadsheet, I exported the file, and I put it into ChatGPT and asked it, hey, can you review this data and ultimately let me know which of these pages, based on the different data sets that we have, which ones need content to be rewritten or updated to perform better on Google search. And so this top picture here, first it told me the criteria that it was going to use. So again, as an expert, I can, basically cross-check that, like, are they using the right sort of metrics to, get that information? And in this case, that all made sense to me. That's exactly what I would have done. And then, because again, I asked it just kind of a general prompt, it didn't actually give me the pages. It just said that there are 118 pages that need, content to be rewritten. So now I take it a step further. Okay. Maybe I know how much time I have this month to work on some content rewrites. And for this example, I just said, give me the top 10 pages that need to be rewritten. And as you can see, it gave me the top 10 pages based on the criteria that it said that it would, evaluate this content. So again, I can take a look because it gave me specific information. Okay, all of these have 0 clicks. So that's, there's nothing that's sort of like, going against another one. But it's very obviously taking a look at click-through rate. All of these have zeros. So that's perfect. There's not one in here that's got like a 2%. So it seems like it did its job. In terms of the naming of the page, so that just came from the file, but thankfully it was linked. So I could click on that and actually go to the actual page where I can, tweak the content. But again, is it perfect? No, it's not. I basically had a bunch of page data in a file. Now I can take a look at what they say is the top 10 pages. And I've noticed right off the bat, there are 2 event pages in there that were events that happened from years ago. Okay, in that instance, I don't really want to rewrite that content. In this case, I might just redirect those if they're performing so poorly. It's just dead weight at this point. So instead of a rewrite, I'll use my expert hat to say, okay, we can redirect those, cull those pages, and then these other ones, they seem pretty legit. And so those we may want to give more of a content boost to. Yeah, and so again, these are just a couple examples. I mean, I've spoken with different people on our team that aren't even in the digital marketing side of things, and they are also using these tools. Like I work very closely with a developer, and he loves to use it to figure out sort of like complex coding situations. So I mean, there's a lot of different uses for this. I mean, this is probably, a year now that we've been using these tools, but I always, kind of start here to get the wheels turning. And then ultimately, if there's like, let's say I'm trying to find keywords, it might spit out some keywords. And then I might go to another tool like SEMrush and actually verify, okay, are these keywords actually valuable? Do they make sense for our strategy for the client? And so on and so forth. So again, it's not a replacement tool, but it definitely helps us in the kind of first planning phases and research phases of our work. And then I'll toss it back to Kendra. She's going to finish this out here.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
I really loved your point on just the brain equity, like how we're using it, but it's not really, replacing what we're doing. It's really getting our gears turning, and then there's some expertise applied there, which I think is great to note. So want to talk a little bit about voice search. So you can see my first stat here. You've probably already read it, but about 40% of adults use voice search daily. We are an Alexa home, and I have boys. So if someone ever published everything that we ask Alexa on a daily basis, I would be very embarrassed. But I can assure you 40% is a low number in my household. We are asking voice search everything from what the weather is today to how long it's going to take us to commute, to how long, what's the cook temperature of a medium steak. I mean, we are constantly just asking for advice from these companions. And we are seeing with the algorithms really shifting into understanding intent, we are seeing different results pop up out of nowhere. So how do we look at that from an SEO perspective? Well, it's important that we look at conversational queries. I might have typed in steak temperature medium if I was just going to Google search. But if I'm asking Google or asking Alexa how to do it, I'm going to use a full sentence, right? And so as we're writing content, we're writing in those full sentences. We're writing in question and answer pentameter, just so that we can make it conversational in our content, and that we can help the search engines, I say the search engines, we're talking about Google, make sense of our content in a conversational way. The more that we can do in writing content to follow natural language processing, the better we are going to be this year. I think that we'll see voice search really, really take off. We called them long-term keywords a couple of years ago, but now it's really just the question answer. So you could see down here, 8.4 billion voice assistants are going to be used by the end of last year. So we're already here. 8.4 billion voice assistants. I mean, I know I have 2 or 3 depending on which device I'm on, but that number is astronomical. And so we will see more search visibility there. So let me go to the next slide. I think I have control again here. There we go. How can I leverage voice search to better my organization? First, think about your in-person experiences. When people are picking up the phone and calling you, visiting your front desk, whatever it might be, what questions are they asking? Chances are those are the same questions they're searching for. So if you're ever wondering, how can I leverage? Like, what are people asking about me? Just think about your in-person experience. Pay attention to your frequently asked questions that your staff gets. So maybe you're a zoo or an aquarium and you have keepers that are asked all the time about the nocturnal habits of an animal. Those are perfect things to really develop content around, because likely people are asking their voice assistants these questions as well. And then NAP, that's name, address, phone number, making sure that people can find you, that you're connected well, that is going to benefit you. So making sure that the whole experience is aligned with how people are asking about you in person, making sure they can find that information online is important. Second, I recommend that you go out and search. And I don't mean just sit at your work computer and Google your name. What I mean is to go out and experience your organization as if you were an end user. What do you notice when you're walking in the front doors? What do you notice with the products that you have? What questions do you think you would ask? Search for that and see how you show up. And you can really start to understand how your question might be a very different stroke of expertise than the content you've written being on the other side of things. That's really, really important. The question-based queries, featured snippets, Google gives us 18 things to click besides a website now. And taking advantage of that can only be done if we really understand what our users and what our customers are looking for. And then consider each device. Again, I said I have multiple voice assistants based on, if I'm at home, it's Alexa. If I'm at mobile, it's Siri. Think about how we would ask differently when we're at home versus on the go. And then how does that differ for you? Are there different questions you're asking going back to am I in my research phase or am I on the way somewhere? Take stock of how you're interacting with your own brand as a customer, and then turn around and write content where you can answer your own question. My little screenshot over here just asks what times of day are the best times to visit the zoo. I didn't even, this is just from Google. Oops, go back to it. This is just from Google. I did not even type in where I was, but Google picked up I was in Nashville and gave me a Nashville specific answer. So, they're watching out for us. They want to get us the information that we need. And thankfully, Nashville Zoo delivered here. So great to see it out in the wild, but we should be leveraging voice search as part of our strategy if we're not already. So that is all the content we have for you, but I do think there are some panel questions going on. Lee, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Perfect. Yes, we do. We had a few questions come in through chat, so everybody, please throw some in there because we've got a good amount of time for questions. I am going to kick us off with this one here, and I imagine you both have great answers to this. Is there a concern about integrity in AI generated content? So I'm going to start this one with Kendra, and then we'll get Adam's follow up on it.
Sure. You saw how beautiful my stock image was that AI created. So, it's not
Right.
something that I would think is like of high design value. And I think it's important to kind of filter that into the results we're getting. Adam mentioned like it gave him a content audit result that was broken. So there certainly are reasons to question the integrity. I don't think we're at a blind trust position yet. But I do think the AI is really infiltrating the common person's life. It's not just SEO practitioners or marketers that are taking advantage of AI. I mean, I've used ChatGPT to plan my meals and to provide me grocery lists. And, they can go out and pull a price, but is it going to be the price when I get to the grocery store? Probably not. And so I think that there's still some questions around it, but as it becomes more and more of a daily driver, it'll be interesting to see if there's one, some guidelines around it and what integrity looks like, but two, just our own trust in it. Will people blindly trust AI? I sure hope not. At least hopefully from what I'm seeing from AI now, it's pretty understandable why you shouldn't, but as it gets smarter, hopefully we do too.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think with a tool like a Chat GTP or other similar tools, it's so easy and tempting, to basically use this to cut corners. You can put a prompt in and say, hey, generate me an interior page for this topic, and it'll do it. Is it great information? Probably not, depending on what you feed it in the prompt. But where I'm coming from is if you're a brand, you're really doing yourself a disservice because, you have all this expertise. Whoever is, at the wheel of this tool, you guys know way more than the AI does. So, put your personality in there. It's not going to be able to do that for you. Like, you know who your audience is, you know exactly what they're looking for. And ultimately, if you have just a bunch of generated content, generated images on your site, trust does take a hit at that point. People are getting smarter, and everyone can pretty much at this point pinpoint, hey, that's AI generated. That doesn't create a great feeling for a lot of people, especially if they're trying to have some sort of like engagement with a brand, or feel like, hey, I'm trying to, or if you're trying to build brand loyalty, it doesn't really go the extra mile. So I would always recommend, like, yeah, maybe in a pinch, some things might be fine. Again, we love to use it for that research stage, planning, all of that. But at the end of the day, we have to inject, that personality, that personal touch, so that, the audience isn't like, wow, this is just all fake content.
Yeah.
They really care. It's
Mhm.
that's ultimately, where I feel like there's probably the most concern, for those people that are just like, oh, this is great. They can just do everything for us, and we can throw it on our site. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents. Is still keep it personal.
Perfect. Let's get into some of our audience questions now. And those of y'all, who are have any other questions, please throw them in. I'm going to start with this one, Adam. This is for you. We are wondering, do you find yourself using more than just Chat GPT during your research on clients? I was just curious if you had an AI tool of choice based on the type of research you are doing, or if some tend to give you more accurate results in certain areas of analysis. For example, ChatGPT, Grok, DeepSeek, etc. So, Adam,
Yeah.
what do you have for that?
Yeah, great question. I think at this stage, Chat GTP is probably the most popularly used tool. There's definitely, a lot of great other ones out there. We've been pushing the free version of Chat GTP to the limit, especially like when I do that content audit where, I throw in a file. I mean, I could probably do 2 more prompts after that, and then it says, you've hit your daily limit. So in this case, we have opted for the purchased version. And so, excited to see like how much more expansive we can get with that. But honestly, it covers a lot of the basis again, because I'm trying to just use it as a research tool. Is that the only tool that I'll use to specifically to research a client? No, I'm going to take a look actually at their content, at their website. We always ask for other tools like Google Analytics, to check, their traffic. These are all things that ChatGTP won't tell me, unless I can figure out a way to like integrate other tools with it. SEM Rush is also a really popular one. That one gives us a lot more data on keywords, how clients are performing, on their rankings, which pages are ranking, all those sorts of things. So I stick to kind of those primary, like tried and true tools, a lot of the Google ones. And then, we've got a couple at our disposal, that aren't AI specific, but they actually have started injecting more AI features into them. And so, I'm a little
Yeah.
skeptical at this point. I think, they can definitely improve and get better, which I expect them to. But for now, probably ChatGTP is, kind of the tried and true one that we use.
Yeah, I was going to say Google Analytics 4, I know has some good
Mhm.
insights that they're using AI to power. We were kind of laughing earlier today about a meta suggestion. They're like, we can improve your performance by, $10 CPM. And then like, what's the suggestion? It's like, add 80 more assets. You're like, yeah, duh. Like, okay,
Right.
that would be easy to do. So like, some of it I feel like is still being fed from maybe a sales perspective or maybe a biased perspective. But seeing it integrate into a lot of our tools, I think that will be really common practice. But Chat GPT will absolutely take over, and it's kind of the Kleenex or the Xerox, if you will.
Awesome. And this is actually a really great segue to our next question. And, I think both of y'all can take this one as well. are there any specific tools or programs beyond just Chat GPT that you have found that is helpful for SEO enhancement in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I'd go back to GA4. There are some insights there. They kind of are, it's not necessarily giving us tools and like tips for implementation, but it is giving us insights that help get those gears turning, like Adam was talking about. So,
Yeah.
it can look at data and say, hey, your engagement time fell this month by 13%. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, we're looking at a metric maybe we weren't before. And so it is providing insights that would be manual to find otherwise. We'd have to make sure that our comparison was on and that we're looking at the right time frame. And having kind of that AI assist in there points those things
Mm,
out, which helps us kind of fine tune our strategy.
Yeah, Google Search Console has a very similar feature. Like it'll, basically pinpoint, hey, we've seen a lot of activity, traffic coming from this specific page. And so unless I went in there and organized everything by the clicks and all that, I probably would have found it that way. But in this case, it just brought my attention, on the home page, like, hey, this page is getting a lot of activity. And then I can go and again, cross check it. Like, is that real traffic? Is that bot traffic? Like, how do I react to that? What do I do with that? Was that something new? So, I mean, it always gets the gears turning. It points your eyes in a direction that maybe you wouldn't have started at. But yeah, I'm really curious to see, like, with these tools that we've been using for years, how that's going to expand as opposed to just your chat GPT, because Google's always implementing something. Like obviously last year was a huge year for the AI overview.
Mhm.
So I'm
I was
really
going to
just curious to see
mention,
where they go.
Yeah, I was going to mention that although it's not directly an SEO tool,
Right.
things like the meta overviews where, the comments are summarized, you don't have to pilfer through comments. Look at that. Next time you see, a third party with a post with a bunch of comments, you'll see an overview and it was like commenters express support and love and how warm this makes them feel. It kind of gives you sentiment and gives you an idea of like good content topics. And so I think those built-in overviews can be used for SEO performance if our
mm,
gears are turning right.
awesome. Well, that's great. Great stuff, guys. I have two more. This one we touched on this one a little bit, but I think y'all can. It's funny, both of these two last questions I have are kind of on the opposite spectrum, so it'll be interesting. This one is, how do we, and by extension us, handle the aversion to AI that a lot of people have, at least in terms of generative AI? AI slop is a common term, and is there a way that AI can be used that will appeal to those people?
Yeah. We love to laugh at AI right now, especially as designers. Like, you could say, give me a website layout, give me a graphic that explains this, and like that's AI slop defined. So obviously it's in our written content too. I think there is an aversion by late adopters. It's going to be just like any other piece of technology, until they can see a personal benefit from it. So I would suggest, how do we get around? How do we make it appeal to maybe even like higher ups that we're working with? And the best suggestion I can offer is that think about the thing that we can't get to because we're wearing so many hats. Like, what could we if we had another person, what would we pass off to them? And then let a system like ChatGPT do its thing, create a program for employees that does this. It doesn't have to be so performance based, but really just thinking about how it could expand your bandwidth. I think once people understand that and how, like, it is nice to have a computer in our pocket at all times. That's why the smartphone is here to stay. Once people realize just how it can automate and increase bandwidth, I think adoption will improve. I mentioned that it's going to, really come into common practice, not just as marketers or tech folks, but it's going to be, doing shopping lists and meal planning and all of that. And I think once people really expand their availability through these tools, the adoption will increase.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I think it's kind of funny to, go back and when all these tools were starting to come about, just reviewing my initial feelings towards using these AI tools. I didn't like it. I didn't want to use it because ultimately I felt like quality was going to suffer. And a lot of people were just, basically using this to pump out quantity. And so, in a way, I kind of felt like I was becoming my parents, like new technology, get that away from me. But yeah, no, as time evolved, I'm like, okay, well, this, first of all, if we don't use these tools because everyone else is using them, like we're going to be falling behind. So we have to use it. Otherwise, we don't want to be left behind. But how can we utilize these tools to still, you know, generate that quality, help us in our day to day, like those repetitive tasks that do burn up that time. And so ultimately, we've gotten more familiar with it. We're comfortable with it now. And ultimately, yeah, it's saving us a lot of time for those tedious things, but still allowing us to basically put all of our energy into where we can inject our expertise and help our clients by still, in a way, producing a little bit more, but the quality isn't necessarily suffering. Like we're expanding our thought process on things. We can work as a team. Different people use the tool. Here's what I found with it. We come together and ultimately figure out, okay, for the goal in mind that we're trying to achieve, what's the best strategy? And, ultimately we come together as a collective. So it has been really great in that sense. And, if you're nervous about it, don't be. There's definitely an ethical and a right way to use it. While, we do live in a world where a lot of people, like, especially if you go to YouTube, you're going to probably see a lot of different channels pop up or TikTok. That's just all AI generated stuff. And, they do it because it works. Like people will click on it. It's not my favorite type of content. I don't like rage bait. I don't like controversial stuff, but for those people, it works. And that's not necessarily a strategy that I have to take, which is great. So, yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Perfect. We got time for one last one here, and then we'll sign off. So this, like I was saying, this one's kind of on the other end of the spectrum, which is funny. I have a small marketing team. It's just me, and I'd like to hire an agency to assist with my day-to-day marketing activities. My boss is under the impression that AI can be my assistant, and while I do use it and it helps, it's just not enough. How would y'all help me craft an argument against this?
Good question.
That's a
Yeah, I
great
mean,
one.
I go back to bandwidth. I think that especially as a marketing team of one, you know what it's like to wear multiple hats and to always feel like if you're paying attention to PR and newsworthy information and blogging, that you're letting social fall. And if you're focused on social, your SEO is suffering. So I know that feeling of feeling like you can't wear all the hats at once. And the bandwidth that you can create just by thinking about how an assistant could help you, that's the kind of bandwidth we're looking at here. Your expertise is still there to drive the ship, but being able to delegate and just get content back, it's a lot easier to edit content than it is to create content, right? In some capacity. So being able to focus where you need to focus and then automating some tasks is the best way to successfully wear those multiple hats, I think.
Yeah, we had an interesting moment a couple months ago in a staff meeting because obviously, again, at an agency, this is a brand new tool. It feels like it definitely can replace a lot of people's jobs. So I think there was just a natural kind of like concern, like, what is the state, of this going forward? And so our boss just got us together and he did a little exercise with us, broke us out into different teams, and ultimately gave us a prompt. And he said, I want you, after about 15 to 20 minutes to come back and give us a presentation on whatever, I forgot what the topic was, but essentially using AI to build out the entire presentation. And so when we came back, we could just feel that there was a lot of gaps, a lot of holes, a lot of things where other experts could have injected better information. And so all of that was an exercise to prove like this isn't a replacement tool. Like it cannot do the job as efficiently as we need it to be for our clients. This is just a tool like anything else. It's just a really new one. It's a really expansive one, but it's not a replacement for anyone's job at this point.
Perfect. And I think as marketers, we all like to hear that reassurance that we're
Yes.
not going to get replaced by the robots. All right. Well, thank you both, Adam and Kendra, for coming on and sharing your expertise. This was so helpful. I knew I was going to get a lot out of it, and I did. I actually just typed this in the chat, but we do have a companion white paper coming out with this content. So be sure to keep an eye on our resource center for that. I expect we'll be publishing it in the next week or so. So any more tips and tricks we have, they're all on the resource center of our website, madebyspeak.com. And we do these webinars bi-monthly. So please keep an eye out for our emails on when we will be doing our next one. Most likely mid-May. It gets a little bit crazy. So we might end up doing it beginning of June, but keep an eye out. If you would like to speak on one of our webinars, please shoot me an email. We're always looking for awesome speakers and experts to share on this platform. So thank you all again so much for attending. Thank you to Adam and Kendra. And we will see y'all at the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have
for
a
your
good day.
time. See ya.
Bye, everybody.